Your actions have disgraced our family. Tell me how sleeping with Jim Gordon, the man who killed your brother, helped reclaim Gotham.
I'm sorry, what?
A cop like that, who killed your brother, forget that man and find another. Mario would roll over in his grave. A boy like that brought our family sorrow. We'll be back in Miami tomorrow. You brought me such shame, your choice was insane. A cop who kills cannot love. A cop who kills has no heart. And he's the cop who gets your love. Shot your brother in the heart. Very smart, Sofia, very smart. A cop like that wants one thing only, and when he's done, he'll leave you lonely. He'll murder your son, he murdered mine. Just wait and see, just wait, Sofia, just wait and see.
You know why I came when Penguin called? It's because you were going to lose.
Well, Sofia Falcone, it's time for you to go home. I called your dad to get you last night. Ding dong, the old man's dead. Which old man? The weak old man. Ding dong, Don Falcone is dead.
Hello, and you are listening to the Gotham Chronicle podcast powered by the Batman Universe. Check out the Batman Universe for this and many other great Batman podcasts. I'm Josh, and joining us is...
This is Donovan.
This is Jan.
And this is Dustin.
Dustin, the editor-in-chief of the Batman Universe, by popular demand, mostly our popular demand, and Jan's too, is joining us to talk the mid-season finale, Queen Takes Night. So, This week, lots of stuff happening. Falcone, weak old man, comes back and goes quietly into the good night as his daughter, says, "Can you just stand over here while I pick some flowers?" Right by that sniper.
I don't see why not.
Yes, quietly.
All right, Sofia, but we gotta hurry. Matlock's on in like 5 minutes.
Wow.
Spoilers,
yeah.
he dies.
Yeah, spoilers, he dies, and Sofia, in a wheelchair, continues to try and goad Penguin and Gordon against each other, to which Gordon finally, arrests Penguin for the murder of Martine because Zaz, betrayal of Thy Name is Zaz, top 10 anime betrayals once again. He's alive, Jan. In fact, he's not only alive, he's apparently still a plot point, so there's that, And then Gordon goes to tell Sofia to cut out all this crime stuff, and then Pig shows up. He's like, Sofia, look out, it's Pig. I am actually on her side. I don't know what you mean, but Sofia, you gotta run Pig's here. She's like, no, Jim, he's working with me. I don't follow what you're saying. And half an hour later, after explaining it, she's like, and now this is all revenge for you killing my brother Mario. Mario? Yeah, that doctor that treated you last year? Oh yeah, how is old Mario? He's dead! Who's the slime ball that killed Mario? Let me at him. No, okay.
Here's a mirror.
So it turns out that she's been planning everything, including Professor Pig, and homeless cop is in a tough position of does he do the right thing and lose everything he's worked for, or keep his mouth shut, knowing that he's living a lie. While all that's being complicated, Tabitha's beating Butch's head and trying to make him remember everything, and it doesn't work until the final scenes of the episode. Couples therapy continues to fail for Bruce and Alfred as Bruce hands him divorce papers and kicks him out of the house after Alfred, does a little bit of domestic violence, slapping Bruce in the face. What else happened? Oh, yeah, Jerome shows up at the end. He's going to be working with Penguin in the second half of the season.
Yeah, Penguin's sent to Arkham Asylum for the second time.
Yeah, well, because he was raving like a madman when they arrested him, I actually heard a Burgess Meredith rah, rah, as they were Awesome. I'm not even joking. It's the first time when he goes to the GCBD where he's like, "Who's gonna work with me? Who?" And then Alvarez or whoever it is like, "Can I get him out of here?" "Yeah, sure." And when they drag him out, that's when he's like, squawing and everything like that.
Wah, wah.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
I think that's like all the basic plots of the episode. Like the sirens are there, but they really don't do much. But like get tied to a chair, and Barbara representing all of us, like doing a flat what when she finds out that you really. Yeah, it's like there's no honor in sleeping with your brother's killer. Wait, what?
No, he said James Gordon first. So she was like, what?
A cutscene is her like vomiting.
Oh gosh, why would she vomit? There is like one plot line that's like barely advanced. There's like a scene of Corey Michael Smith yelling at the mirror, and it's like, "You're in love with Lee." No, I'm not, and that's all that we're gonna deal with this week. It's like Grundy's in the back. Yeah, I forgot about that too. That was like,
oh, Grundy is so cute.
That was a deleted scene basically. That like they didn't delete. It did nothing to advance the plot except.
Lady. Not pretty no
I think it's just a setup for the next half of the season.
But I mean, not to get too much into the discussion before we actually do the discussion, but like, just a quick like, did that scene do anything that last week's scene of it, didn't do?
I think it's just a continuity.
Yeah. So nothing was lost or gained. So what did you all think of the episode? And since he hasn't been here in a while, let's start with Dustin.
Okay, well, so the last time I was here on the Gotham Chronicle, it was May 2016, end of season 2. And honestly, I know because I haven't been here, I'm just going to catch up everybody on my thoughts of the series as a whole. I feel as if...
I would be angry if you didn't.
Yes, I feel as if midway through the first part of season 3, they kind of jumped the shark completely. And then now the shark is way in the rearview mirror as we get into season 4 here. But basically, I'm still watching the show kind of like because I feel it's like a necessity to watch the show specifically because it is a Batman-related show and I run a Batman-related site, so I am obligated by necessity to watch the show. I watch a lot of TV in general. I appreciate well-written dramas. I don't watch very many comedies. This show is basically borderline comedy just because of how much over-the-top ridiculous camp there is in this show. But that all being said, the thing is there's certain aspects of the show that I can appreciate. There's certain things that they have done. Like I'll admit, everything that they've actually done with Solomon Grundy up until this episode, I actually really enjoyed and thought that they were doing it well. I mean, like, did I like the idea of Butch Gilzine becoming Solomon Grundy? Not immediately when they initially, said that was what was going to happen, but I went with it because I like the character of Solomon Grundy, and I think everything that they've done up until the point where he just miraculously remembers who he is at the end of this episode, it worked well, and it made perfect, it worked well for anybody who likes Solomon Grundy. Meanwhile, there's other characters like Riddler who keeps flopping back and forth, and then you've got other characters like Leslie Tompkins who they don't know what to do. They don't have any clue what to do with her character. And it's like they're trying to get somewhere, but every time they start to go in a direction, it immediately veers in the complete opposite direction. So that's what's really annoying about this is that there's so many characters that flip-flop. And most of the time you get very little to no explanation as to why they're changing or, what the sudden reason behind them having such drastic changes. Perfect example would be Barbara Keene. Barbara Keene at the beginning or at the end of last season was dead. She somehow comes back to life. We're assuming that it had something to do with the Lazarus Pit.
They did confirm that. There was a line of dialogue where Ross says, "When I bathed you in the Lazarus Pit."
Okay, so that's the problem with watching a show you're not super interested in, is you sometimes miss small details.
Pure savagery.
The small ones.
But
he said it like very, very as a matter of factly. Like it was very easy to miss.
Yeah, so it's basically like we were saying this just so that there's no question. But yeah, so that happened, but then they never really explained. So then Ra's al Ghul dies, and she immediately is like, well, I'm just going to give this all up. And it takes Tabitha and Selena to basically convince her to, well, it was mostly Selena, but to convince her to, team up together. But there's no real explanation as to why she was with Ra's in the first place. I mean,
Yeah, there was.
what was the
not
explanation?
He said, like, okay, it was a stupid reason, but he said, like, I needed someone with, like, connections or something like that.
He needed her to be the eyes and ears of Gotham, but that was like,
But how
kind of
much
like with the
was
whole.
she really the eyes and ears of Gotham? His storyline got wrapped up so quickly in the beginning of the season that like there was no time for her to really be his eyes and ears. Like there was a couple small situations where she was involved in things that he was, that he eventually like the auction that she was involved in trying to get the knife on his behalf. Okay, fine. And then the involvement with Bruce Wayne leading up to him getting involved with Bruce Wayne, that all tied it together, but it was like so loose, and it just comes across as forced when you're putting these characters together just for the sake of having them together. They killed Barbara, but they didn't want to keep her dead, so they tie her together with Ra's al Ghul, and who has the perfect explanation of someone being able to come back to life just for the sake of being able to take a character that they killed to bring back to life. And honestly, as much as I love what they've done with Solomon Grundy, the Indian Hill stuff has completely been overused. I mean, I'm sorry, but I'm so sick and tired of the explanation of these characters that they insist on keep killing being brought by some horrible thing that Indian Hill dredged
It's
up.
like the fifth person brought back to life on the show.
Whatever.
Indian Hill is like the meteor freaks of Smallville.
Yeah. It's just annoying.
Or the particle accelerator from Flash.
And I'm watching this episode and thinking to myself, as Gordon kills Pig, well, how long is it going to be before they decide to bring him back?
Sophia killed Pig.
Oh, right, that's right. Sorry, that's right. She killed Pig for the sake of her being able to hold it over Gordon. But at the same time, it's one of those things where it's like, okay, so how long is it before Pig comes back to life? I mean, like, the thing that bugs me is when they decide to kill off the villains that should be alive when Bruce becomes Batman. And even if you want to try to say that, I mean, I put this in my mind when I try to make this all make sense, is that this isn't having anything to do with the comics. It's just them using the characters and they're not trying to follow any storyline. Not that there is an established story or anything, but but like anytime
think of it like in Elseworlds.
Exactly, and that's the way I try to explain to myself as I'm watching and thinking how horrible it is. But but the reality of it is when I'm watching the show and I'm sitting here thinking to myself, why are they killing a character that normally would be alive? Like, you took the character because the character exists in the Batman universe when Batman exists, and you've decided to plop him in here years before Bruce becomes Batman just for the sake of having the character on the show, because quite honestly, this show would have never been successful to the minuscule degree that it has been successful, if it wasn't for them introducing these villains that would have never appeared if it wasn't for Bruce Wayne becoming Batman. I mean, like, that's arguable too in plenty of fan communities as well, as whether or not Bruce actually, or Batman actually brought these villains to Gotham or not, or his presence.
I guess he didn't.
And I don't want to like go into that debate by any means, but I'm just saying, like, the thing is, these villains in Gotham are here just for the sake of being here. So it's almost as if the presence of the villains will force Batman or Bruce Wayne to become Batman just to deal with the villains. I mean, that's the way the show's portraying it, which is really annoying. But the thing is, there's every time they kill a character, and I just keep thinking to myself, so how long is it going to be before? Because they've killed so many characters over the course of the last 3.5 years that they end up bringing back a year later, a year and a half. I mean, like, it's ridiculous. So, yeah, I will say that I'm watching the show. There's like very few things I'm enjoying about it, but in general, especially this season with the overuse of the crazy blood splatter on the camera, that is by far one of the most annoying things that this show has been doing. That I cannot stand.
Not noticed that.
Yeah, like anytime anybody slices somebody's neck or bashes their head in, there's blood that splatters everywhere, and it somehow always ends up on the camera. There's a horror trope that I despise because it's stupid. I mean, like, there's nobody actually there; they're just doing it for the sake of
The first time I ever noticed that was in Robo War, which is like a Bruno Mattei Predator ripoff. But that's when the guy spat actually into the camera. But I think like when Fish tore her eye out, there was blood on the camera. I have seen it before, but I've not noticed it lately.
Yeah, it might have been before, but it just feels like it's happening a lot. It happened. It happened a couple different times just in the last few episodes because it was really annoying to me.
When Solomon Grundy ripped the guy's arm off, did it happen then?
Oh, when Grundy ripped the guys, stop hitting yourself, stop hitting yourself.
Yeah, that actually probably was that. Yeah, actually, now that I'm thinking about it, there was a bunch of sequences when they were doing that. The show is, on a downward turn, at least as far as the channel that it's airing on Fox. There was two small things that I noticed just that I found super annoying and proof positive that the PR team / publicity team, whoever they are behind promoting the show, are not doing their jobs well. The official description for this week's episode spelled the name Sofia incorrectly in the episode description, but then in the credits actually had it spelled correctly. So it's like they didn't take the time to make sure that they spelled Sophia's name correctly. That was super annoying because I was like, did they somehow suddenly change the spelling of her name for some unknown reason? Did I miss something?
I'm sure someone got fired for that blunder.
Yeah. But then not just that, but even a worser one, because not everybody obviously is going to see the official episode description. The more prominent one was if you actually start I don't watch Gotham live. Trust me when I say there's no way I could watch this show live. But when I was watching the show on my DVR and I hit play, you know how they always start the episode with the voiceover guy with the
viewer
Fox.
Discretion is advised.
Yeah, viewer discretion is advised, and it's like now a new episode of Gotham on Fox. Well, the beginning voiceover actually said, and now the season finale of Gotham.
It did say the season finale.
Yes. And I was
really confused.
And I kept thinking to myself, I know that this show's coming back because I already had seen at that point the trailer for the spring return. And I'm sitting here thinking, how did this get past as many people as it probably has to get past for them to make this kind of mistake? I mean, you don't have to say mid-season finale if you don't want to. You could have just rolled with the
fall
voiceovers that you used on the normal week. Yeah, I mean, it's mind-boggling. The official description described it as the mid-season finale. That's the way they described it. So I figured they meant whoever was editing it and put it together thought, hey, they must have said mid-season, but they didn't actually listen, and then it turned into that. And I was just like, wow.
Oh, no, I'm with you. I was super confused too. I was like, thought there was a whole second half coming. Yeah. I guess not. I guess, okay.
Starring Sofia with a P.
The thing that I'll quickly add about the PR team is that, there's two kind of things that handle it because, it's produced by Warner Brothers, and they have a PR guy that handles it, and another person in that department, and then Fox has their own PR for the show too. And I will say, at least with Fox's PR, I'm not sure if I should say any names here, but one person in their PR department has been a very good friend to the website and to the podcast. So I at least appreciate them in that sense.
If only they knew how to spell. No, I'm kidding.
Well, I'm sure she's not the one that handles it.
Yeah, it could be. It could be. I mean, I'm sure there's a bunch of different people who may not even be working on everything on a normal basis. But the one thing I will say, the one plus side about this season that I've, outside of some of the depictions of some of the characters, that is, the one thing that I appreciate is the fact that they actually aired more episodes before the mid-season finale, or the giant break that they will inevitably take, because they take it every year. In the past seasons, they normally only do about 8 episodes, and then they go into the mid-season break, and then they come back in January for 4 episodes or 3 episodes or whatever, and then they come back for the remaining group of the stuff during April and May for sweeps and things like that. This year, however, they actually aired 11 episodes, which is exactly half of the season, so it really was a full mid-season break. Oh. And then they promoted that the show's coming back in the spring, which means I'm guessing the show's not actually going to be back on air until probably the end of March, early April at the very earliest, just because there's probably some other show that Fox has for that time slot to take place in January and February and the majority of March, probably like a 11 or 10 episode miniseries or whatever that they've got planned. But I appreciate the fact that they're not doing what they've done in the past, where they allowed more episodes to air, because it gives at least it gives the writers the ability to tell as crappy of a story as they'd like to tell, with more hours and minutes to do that with, compared to having to cram it so much and then get stuck only telling like a 3 or 4 episode story arc that in the middle of winter like they've done in the past couple of years. So I appreciate that aspect of it.
What do you think about this episode as like it's separate from your thoughts on the last 12.5 months? Like, did you have a good impression of this episode as a whole, or?
Well, so if I were speaking specifically of this episode, I mean, there was parts that I enjoyed. I mean, going through some of the different storylines that you mentioned, like the Solomon Grundy stuff with Tabitha, I thought it was kind of ridiculous. I thought that the fact that he eventually gets to the point where, he's now confused as to what the heck happened to him because she hits him in the head. Like, the idea that that's the way she thinks is going to get through to him is a little far-fetched to begin with. I mean, I guess she's trying to use the explanation that he said tabby when they were fighting in the ring, but it was that the idea of her kidnapping Grundy is a little ridiculous too. He has broken out of multiple different ways of being contained in the past, but somehow sits in the chair the entire time he's getting his face smashed with a pipe, while he has bruises popping up on his face, and he has basically no desire to break out of the chair and stop her from hitting him in the face. Yeah. But I mean, I know you normally go through each story point individually, so I'll just say as a whole, I mean, there was parts that were interesting. There wasn't any major surprises. I would say the biggest surprise was actually that Professor Pig was working with Sofia, because I didn't actually see that coming.
Called it.
Yeah, I didn't see that coming. So that was a surprise to me. But I thought the probably the worst moment of the entire episode was Gordon not realizing that Sofia was the one that had her father killed. That was probably the most annoying thing, because I kept thinking to myself, if it's not Sofia, who would it be? It's not Penguin.
Agreed.
There was no way. I'm sorry, but Robin
It's
Lord
Fish
Taylor
finally
not
getting her revenge from season 1.
Exactly. Robin Lord Taylor he can act very well in certain scenes, but when he's trying, when they did the scene where he's saying to Zaz, honestly, it wasn't me. Honestly, he if he's saying he wants to take credit for what happened, but he's trying to hide from Zaz, or he's trying to admit to Zaz that he had nothing to do with the situation, it should have worked out a little bit differently, where he could have said, listen, I had nothing to do with it, but that doesn't mean, he should have played a little bit more sneaky or something like that, where there could have at least been the disbelief that he could have been involved in some way. He's trying to just play it off as, I have nothing to do with it, because he doesn't want to upset Zaz, because Zaz was attached to Falcone in the past. But at the same time, that entire sequence came across as this is not what you would expect Penguin to be doing. He's saying his hands are clean and he had nothing to do with it. But why wouldn't he want to take the blame for something like that? He just took down Falcone. He has betrayed and gone against words and promises in the past with other people. So why would he have any desire to sit there and make it seem like he didn't have anything to do with it, other than the Zaz situation? So, yeah.
Well, and also because there was no honor in killing Falcone. He was dying anyway, and he was retired in Miami, aka Cuba, Florida.
Yeah.
Cuba, yeah.
Jan, what were you? Did you like this episode?
Yes.
Right?
Don't be coy.
Very elaborate. Very elaborate.
Well,
she's awestruck because Dustin's here.
it's true. No. Honestly, I can't take this show as seriously as you guys do. You know that. There are certain things I will lose my shit over, like that whole Ra's al Ghul thing.
Or Martine.
Okay, sorry. But no, I got what I wanted out of this episode.
Okay.
which was Butch getting his memory back at the end. I don't care how he got it. I don't care. That's what I was here for.
All right.
But
I'm sorry. I thought you were done.
No, sorry. But yeah, I couldn't. I'm with Dustin on the whole, because I was like staring at it. Like the only thing that makes sense is that it was Sofia. And then, like Penguin literally gains nothing from this. He gained nothing in that situation at all.
In fact, it makes it more difficult for him because then Sofia's not being kidnapped anymore back to Florida.
Yeah, because he called Falcone there to pick up Sofia, so it just didn't make sense to me. I really did like the whole scene with the sirens. That was a fun little scene. I did like the scene with Ed because, I don't know, for me it was like kind of like a tick of a reminder of like a step to what's going to happen in the next season instead of just having like nothing there. I mean, it didn't need to happen, but for me, it just worked for me. What else was there? Also, like, yes, Bullock was there. I was super excited when I saw him. I'm always excited when I see him because we see him less and less these days, and it makes me upset. Yeah, I love the Bruce and Alfred stuff too. And I do love that you get to see like Bruce's downward spiral because that, like I said, like I really hated that whole race thing, but like how they're handling it to me feels really good.
I like this episode. I think it's good. Some of the stuff that happened honestly wasn't as shocking to me as I think it was to you, Josh. Like, I've always kind of like, been like clock watching when Falcone's going to die in this show because he's been increasingly irrelevant since the end of the first season. Like, he appeared like in one episode, I think, in season 2, and then a couple of times in season 3. So like, when he died, it wasn't like, oh, a major character is gone. It was like, okay, finally. It was interesting though because it did have ripple effects in the plots. Although I wasn't necessarily saying why isn't it obvious to Gordon that Sofia did it, but I was thinking to myself that it's so obvious that she could have done it. Then like they're not really presenting any other culprit behind that. But it was interesting to watch, and especially like the kind of Penguin and Zaz stuff was interesting. That
was a surprise.
Well, yeah, the biggest surprise for me was legitimately when Zaz sold out Penguin. I honestly didn't see that coming and laughed. But the Tabitha and Grundy stuff was all right. Like I agree with Dustin. It doesn't really make sense that she can just beat back his memory into him. That's not how the brain works. But at the same time, this is a cartoon, so
that's what doesn't make sense about Butch being Solomon Grundy.
Yeah.
Probably the best explanation I've ever heard is that this is a cartoon, so it makes sense.
Well, yeah, I mean, this is the same guy from like the Super Friends and stuff. So what are you going to do? I honestly didn't.
In the head last season.
I honestly didn't love the Bruce and Alfred stuff. I agree with Jan that like I like the fact that they are really dealing with the ramifications of what he did to Raish. So they're really digging their heels and committing to that. But I felt that like this one wasn't anything else we've not seen before because Bruce has fired Alfred before, and granted, it does mean more here because of all the emotions. But I thought there'd be just a little bit more investigation to his emotional state. It's just him continuing to be a douche, and I told you, it reminded the scene of like from Metalocalypse where like the robot is imagining all these things happening to him, where like the camera just zooms into Bruce looking evilly. He's like, "I drink and party with girls. I'm the worst person in the world." Mwahaha. And I was like, okay, wake me up when you do something different with this plot line. But overall, I don't think I liked it as much as you did, but I did enjoy it overall.
I like about 90% of this episode, and it's one of my favorites of the season. Maybe my second favorite, just behind the Orphans Gala like dinner party episode. And it's possible I like this one a little more than that. In terms of like plot line, I feel like this is almost like a spiritual successor to Penguin's Umbrella, because the thing about Penguin's Umbrella was there was a lot of stuff that was happening there where you felt like, man, they're like where can the characters possibly go from here? Even though there's been other good episodes of the series like Bruce and Jerome in the Mirror House and the Matches Malone episode, like those weren't episodes where you would say like, where can they go from here? And like when Penguin's arrested and Gordon's like, the cops aren't corrupt anymore, I have everything I want, like those are moments where I was like, dang, we still have like 20 minutes left in the episode. Like, where can we go from here? So I did like that in the episode. There was stuff I didn't like, which, we'll get into in the plot by plot stuff. But That's how I felt about it. I guess the biggest thing to talk about would be Sofia Falcone, and they addressed my biggest complaint about her like this week, which is, this guy killed your brother. He killed your brother. Like, stop sleeping with him. Stop doing this. So I still think that her sleeping with him is like really stupid, but I'm glad that they tied it back to Mario, that like she did all of this to get like this revenge on Gordon for like Mario's death. And I don't
Was that revenge? Sign me up for another.
Yeah. Man, do you have any more brothers I could kill?
Oh, God. Doesn't she have another one, like a wimpy one?
Alberto, yeah.
He'll be there next season, I'm sure.
Alberto Luigi Falcone.
Jason Ritter like posted on like something on my Facebook, and I was like, yeah, Gordon's running out of Falcones to kill. And yeah, even though Falcone has not really been much relevance to the show, it was still a big moment for him dying, because he has been around since the pilot, and he is Sofia's father, Lee's father-in-law. He has ties to like all these characters, and like I said, he's been around.
Oh my God, I'm sorry.
Our God, we share him. What's up?
I just realized Lee wasn't at the funeral.
Yeah, I talked about that with Dawn after we watched the episode on Thursday night. I was like, Lee didn't go to her father-in-law's funeral. I mean, maybe
like he was the one that like was going to kill James Gordon, but she says please don't, and like he didn't. So you would think they have some sort of like affection for each other.
Well, because this is a tendency that's been happening all season long, and then it happened last season too, where there's just main characters that just don't appear in the entire episode. It's like a common thing that just keeps happening. Like, how many episodes was Harvey Bullock not in, or just this season alone? There was a couple episodes where he was the police captain. He wasn't even in the episode. There's this weird tendency where they're just letting an actor take an entire episode off because they don't have any way to develop their stories.
I think at one point for Donald Logan it was legitimately because of his missing daughter, but that had, I know by this point in the season that had been that had ended. I think that's a good point though, that like, and because I don't know how long this whole Sofia plot line was put in stone, that like she's doing all this because of Mario, because Mario, like the ramifications of like what Gordon did to Lee and Mario, and then her and how they've written this character, it doesn't feel like it's really thought out very well. So it does. The revelation that this is all for revenge for her brother kind of feels like an 11th hour sort of like what was it called, like Monday Night Quarterbacking or whatever. It feels like the last minute sort of revelation rather than the seeds were always there.
It's not just for Mario, but like I think that it was a 3-part plan. Like, she had 3 goals, which was she wanted to impress her father, she wanted powers, and she wanted to prove herself and take over a city. And she's mad at this guy because he killed her brother. So she found a way to like accomplish all 3 goals within one plan. That's what I think it is. Like, I don't think that like Mario's the reason why she like went to Gotham City and everything, but it's a 3 birds with 1 stone type thing. And from the moment after that Professor Pig at the dinner party episode, I thought that she and Pig might be working together, because I was like, they did both come to Gotham at the same time, and just everything that Pig was doing was furthering her goals. Like, what Pig did got Bullock fired and got Gordon promoted, and even at the dinner party, Professor Pig showing up basically gave Sofia a temporary like reprieve from like Penguin not trusting her. He's like, wow, you were willing to eat human flesh for my like, little friend, I guess I won't kill you after all. You've proved. Well, and Pig also knew Martine's name. He knew like, and speaking of like little boys, it was like a few weeks ago on like the Ben segment where he said that you and Donovan and your conspiracy theories, Pig is not working with Sofia. Well, take that, Ben. Who was right?
To be honest, I didn't say anything of the sort.
He's the one that said you and Donovan, your conspiracy theories. He gave Jan a reprieve. He didn't blame it on her, but
because I said tinfoil hat.
Yeah, tinfoil.
She was playing that long game, man.
Yeah, this must be the longest scheme anyone's played on this show up to this point.
That's true, but in some ways it actually is good, because they've been hinting at the fact that she's been playing everybody since she got to Gotham, and it's really smart that it did play out as long as it did. I mean, like I said, I was surprised by everything that happened with Pig, because I didn't see her actually orchestrating that or being involved in it at all. So the fact that she was actually involved in it was a surprise to me. Some of the stuff where, she gets put on the train by Gordon and then Zaz shows up. She said that she saw that the entire time, and she had Martine as the way to get Penguin to basically hand over control and things like that. Yeah, the keys to the city. I mean, it was basically like she saw all that coming. I was like, well, she's like, as far as a tactician, she's pretty freaking good. So I mean, like, props to her for like the long game. And honestly, it's one of those things where like it's very rare that they actually allow a character to have a long game of anything in this show. So that's definitely something that they changed up this time around.
I also want to point out that with this episode, this is the closest she actually is to her character from Dark Victory in Long Halloween, because she fakes being in a wheelchair, even like down to the neck brace. And she was present, when her father died. Now in the comic book, she loved her father, and Two-Face killed Falcone. But here, I mean, in both the comics and in this, like, she was there when her dad died. And in Dark Victory, not to spoil too much if you've not read it, but like she is playing a long game in there as well. She is a pretty good tactician. So I'll agree that, like, I thought that the extent of her planning was the last episode where she, where when Martine seemingly blew up, she didn't see it coming. But here it's like, no, she planned even more ahead. And not even, I mean, like, because at first, up to this point, I thought, well, she just wants to take over Gotham. She's playing Penguin and Gordon, very predictable, blah, blah, blah. But here, I mean, killing her father wasn't that big a surprise. I didn't necessarily see the pig thing coming, but the way that she kind of like orchestrated...
Because no one listens to me.
Well, the way that she orchestrated everything to like fall in her favor, regardless of how it ended up, that was pretty dang clever. The show... I don't know if the show necessarily played us, but they really kept that close to the vest where the show wasn't obvious with that. I don't really remember any scenes where they kind of hinted that, because we knew that she was trying to make Gordon captain for a while. So I don't know. I didn't necessarily see that she was going to hang that over his head. Besides, I made you captain, and people believe in you. But that's not a bad trick.
Mm-hmm.
Well, and it's Crystal Reed. She was either lying to me, and is a really good actress, which is possible, or the producers didn't tell her what was happening, which makes sense because when I interviewed Drew Powell between seasons 1 and 2 at Walker StalkerCon, he said that he did not know if Butch was faking his mind control in season 1, that like every week when he would get the scripts, he was like, curious, and he would have a different theory, like, oh, Butch is faking it. Oh, maybe he's not. So, and Crystal Reed in the interviews at New York Comic Con, like, she said that like she was kind of bothered by the fact that like nobody mentions that like Gordon killed her brother, and she thought that that should be a bigger deal. And she actually made a point of saying, she said, I've been using that in my performance, but I don't think that the writers are really acknowledging it. So either they changed their mind or they didn't tell her ahead of time, which given the history of like what the other actors have said, that seems like it makes more sense, because
we know that there has been a time. The only time I remember, because when we interviewed them, I think it was in 2015, before the season even started, they said they had plans for the Order of Saint Dumas and Mr. Freeze, and that was after the mid. That was like in the second half of the season. Like, that was months away. So they do plan things out way in advance. But the way that this works, I mean, it's possible that the whole motivation thing could have been done in advance, but I just don't know, because it was so kind of vague and broad.
Speaking of, I have to bring this up now because it'll make more sense if we bring it up now when we're talking about planning things ahead. They recast Tommy Elliott in this season, and that's definitely a long game too, because if you saw the promo for the spring, there's a Bruce Wayne mask that is being held at some point during the promo. And I'm definitely guessing that has something to do with the fact that Tommy Elliott has popped up and that he keeps saying that he's going to go spend time with Tommy Elliott. And now he's going to be, there's no moral base with Alfred anymore. So I'm guessing that also has something to do with it too, even though I don't really feel like the actor that they recast, not that the actor before was better, but it doesn't feel as if what the actor has been given so far is really demanding that he has a larger role in the series. But I feel like they're definitely going that route in some way, as to the reason as to, well, I mean, the promo, at least I'm guessing that's the reason why they have a Bruce Wayne mask, but I'm guessing
I thought that was just him like going on a drug trip because Ivy kissed him or something.
Well, that's possible too,
It's
but
not okay.
I mean,
God, and it's just a normal Ivy again. Come on, if you can paint all of Drew Powell, you can paint this woman green.
they needed to recast the character yet again to make her older, but again they keep not only that, but I don't know about you, but and it could have just been the lighting, but it did not even look like she had red hair.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, Peyton List in real life has brown hair. She had brown hair last year on Frequency, the TV show she was on the CW that I watched.
She's a Golden
that show.
Glider on the Flash. She has like kind of brown hair.
Yeah, she was Golden Glider too. And she was also on some show called The Tomorrow People, which was also on CW, which got canceled after one season. I didn't watch that, but so it's had brown hair. So the thing is, like, I don't understand how she went from red hair from these adaptions of the character, and they're just making her older yet again, to now she's got brown hair. That's just is like, what?
They're doing it to make her older?
Well, that's why they recasted her. The producer said in some interview right around the time that they recast, that they announced that Peyton List was going to be Ivy Pepper. They basically said that it was because the idea was they were aging her yet again. The last time we saw so that they could age her yet again to make her more in line with the way she appears in the comics. So they went from having a 13-year-old girl to now having somebody who's probably like, lower 30s, upper 20s.
She's still 13, though.
Yeah, in her mind, she still should be 13. But it's
there's a shot of Peyton List kissing
going that route of sexualizing somebody who is supposed to be much younger, I guess.
There's a shot of her kissing Davi Mazouz, and I'm sorry, but like she's 31 years old and he's like 16. I have a real problem with that.
Stella and I were talking about this. I'm trying to remember when it was. It was either during Comic-Con or one of our like mini chats, and like we were talking about Poison Ivy, and she says, "Isn't that disgusting? Isn't she still like technically a child, and like she's doing all this stuff with like older men?" And I said, "Yeah, it is disgusting."
Now they made her older so that she could do stuff with a boy.
You're right. Like,
what are you doing?
Yeah,
what are you doing?
They're doubling down on this creepiness.
Well, the one thing I will say is that I think Peyton List is a better actress than Maggie Gia was, but at the same time, I still have no idea what they're doing. Like, it just feels like they're running out of characters that they can exploit. I mean, like, even in the promo, Jerome throws down the Joker card, clearly hinting at something, or they cut those scenes to make it seem like that, which is entirely possible too. But like, they've gone down the road and they've said multiple times, Jerome is not the Joker. He's not the Joker. But now they're like just playing into the idea that he is the Joker. So like, they could say it as many times as they want, but that's who they want to be the Joker. They want everyone to think he's the Joker.
That's true.
Yeah, at this point, it's like, whatever. I thought that was a big shock in season 2, where like he was killed off. Like, oh, he's not the Joker after all. That was a surprise. But then
and the first of many resurrections.
yeah. He came back. Fish came back. Galavan.
And then they did that whole
Barbara
cut off the face thing, and I was just like, oh, hey, cool. I have that mask in my room.
Actually, you do. I remember seeing that. Yeah.
Yeah, you saw it, Don.
One of the kids was watching a clip of that on like YouTube, and they said, "Why is this guy's face off?" And, and like, I had to sit there and like explain
like, for 2 hours.
Yeah, I was like, well, anyway, back to the actual episode. I thought that this was an interesting ethical dilemma for Gordon, because I remember, like, in the pilot, he has that ethical dilemma, do I, like, kill Penguin, which, and be corrupt, or, like, how do I get out of this situation? Like, the other dilemmas that they haven't been as, like, ethical. It's like, do I murder Galavan in cold blood, or do I do the right thing and not do it? Like, that's not a dilemma. That's you making a horrible decision. Do I call my fiance, or do I wait, like, 6 episodes until she hooks up with a guy who I'm eventually going to murder? Like, these...
Dude,
these
I totally forgot. He killed somebody.
Galavan,
yeah, no, I mean, I remember, but, like, I blocked it out.
I was pissed.
So did he, because, like...
It's called selective memory. You have to have it with this show.
Yeah, Gordon has it, too. But anyway, like, what I liked about this was, he gets, like, basically everything that he wanted since the pilot. Like, the cops are like, yeah, we're on your side now. He brings down Pax Penguin. I was like, all right. And then Sofia basically lays it out. Actually, this was all because you went to get me from Miami, and I brought Professor Pig, and all these people are dead. And she said, so you can admit the truth and get me arrested and everything, but if you do, that means that you're gonna not be captain anymore, and they're just gonna appoint someone else who's corrupt, and it'll be season 1 all over again. You're gonna lose everything that was worked for and everything that happened, like Bullock not being your friend anymore, all those people dying. That will be for now.
Is Bullock really his friend anymore? Let's be honest there.
But Bullock's kind of salty at him. He wouldn't even sit with him during the funeral. He's like, hey, Bullock.
Well, he was like, this is all your fault that Falcone is dead. And I was like, in what way was that his fault?
Hey, Bullock, saved you a seat. That's okay. I'm going to sit over here with the cool kids. There's no one over there. Exactly.
Exactly. Those are the only cool kids.
I got hot dogs.
You brought hot dogs to Falcone's
Come on, it's a social event of the season. Everybody's here.
He wouldn't bring hot dogs. He'd bring Thai food.
Everybody but his daughter-in-law.
Oh,
yeah.
Jesus.
Maybe she doesn't even know. Who knows?
Well, yeah, I don't think they get television down there in the Narrows. I honestly don't think that they're from the outside of the world.
Apparently, Tabitha had we'll get back to this, but Tabitha had a 1920s gramophone, but I was in season 1, Liza used an MP3 player to listen to opera with Falcone. So I know that MP3 players exist in this universe. But anyway, so Gordon's faced with this choice, or he can keep everything that they worked for, but basically always know that this was all his fault and he's living a lie. And Sophia's like, that's my revenge for you killing Mario. And I was like, dang, that's actually that is a really good dilemma. And obviously, eventually, this will all be unraveled, but. I like that idea where Gordon has to live with this guilt or this victory that he has is hollow. I like that.
I liked it too, and I thought it was actually a really good way of doing it. Leading up to the Sofia reveal at the end of the episode, the fact that the cops were behind him, he's the captain, they all trust his decision-making process, great leadership skills. It came across as okay, we're actually achieving something. Gordon is actually at a position that you expected him to be after maybe the first season of coming in as the rookie detective as they portrayed it. I mean, that's the way you would have thought, but they had to draw it out for 3.5 seasons because they didn't have a whole lot of other things to do. My concern is, where do they go from here? Because obviously this entire thing with Sofia will eventually unravel unless Sofia, they decide to keep around past the season, which is possible, although I don't see it happening because it seems like there's a tendency to only have a character around for a short time. When they bring in Theo Gallivan, he wasn't around for more than a season. They had Tabitha, on the other hand, she did come in at season 2 and she's still around, but that might just be because there was a lack of females on the cast as well, compared to the number of males on the show. But either way, it comes down to, it's one of those things where I think to myself, this is exactly where Gordon should be. But now this thing with Sofia, because it's looming over him, this could send him right back down to, beginning of season 2 Gordon, where he's basically back in the gutter. I mean, and I don't want them to go that route, but I don't see any other way other than Sofia dying and holding the secret to the grave for it to work out like that.
Well, the whole where will they go next, that's part of the excitement and, the mystery of the show, where as with Penguin's Umbrella, where every single storyline was wrapped up and, when we still had the rest of season 1 to go. So, I guess we'll see.
Go back to Dollmaker Island.
No, we will never go back to Dollmaker Island. That was the biggest waste of time ever.
And Falcone will rip out his own eye. It's fine.
Yeah, because he'll be alive. Yeah, why not? Razzo goes Falcone, when I bathed you in the Lazarus pit to make you my eyes and ears of Gotham, now kiss me, you weak old man.
Wow.
Your death, you getting shot allowed you to rid your body of cancer, so you are now alive again.
We don't even know if it was cancer. He's I'm dying.
He's dying. He was just dying of an incurable disease. Oh, we were talking about Falcone ending
syndrome.
up in Dollmaker Island and taking his eye out because he said that this episode was basically just Penguin's Umbrella where everything wrapped up and there was like nothing to do for the second half. So I was like, yeah, let's just go back to Dollmaker Island.
Let's not.
But the perfect reason why Penguin's Umbrella ended the way it did was because originally that's where the season was supposed to end. They didn't expect it to go. They expected it to be like
That was
a
episode
short
6, right? Wasn't
No.
it? Penguin's Umbrella.
11 or
It was
something.
episode 8, I think.
Yeah, but
Huh.
I remember like initially when they got 8 order episode count initially, so they wrote it to 8 episodes. Then it went on that break because they said they got picked up for an additional 5 episodes for the 13, and then it was like, oh, okay, cool. But when you watch Penguin's Umbrella, it felt like the end of a season. It didn't feel like the end of an actual, like a break. It felt like everything got wrapped up very well. There were some cliffhanger aspects that could lead into another season, but it didn't feel like the middle of a season. That and then they came back with the 5 episodes, and then it felt like the rest of that season they didn't have any clue what to do.
It was episode 7.
So it wasn't going to be the last episode. I thought that like the Lovecraft thing was the last episode originally.
Lovecraft was the mid-season finale, but like Penguin's Umbrella was like the turning point of the season.
Yeah.
One question that I was debating with Don off mic too was like, does Zaz know that like Sofia killed Falcone? Because I was like, how can he not know? But then the more I thought about it, I was kind of on Don's side. You know what? Like, yeah, Zaz probably doesn't know, and that's one of the reasons why Sofia kills Pig, because he's a loose end. He he knows everything that happened, and so just food for thought on the Zaz thing.
Yeah, it didn't feel like he knew. I feel like he'd be more upset if he knew it was like,
Especially since he showed that he was upset with the idea that Penguin could have been involved in the death of Falcone. And there was that whole sequence where he comes in and Penguin's like, no, it wasn't me. It wasn't me. I had nothing to do with it. My hands are clean. And like he's like basically like, please, Oz, don't pull your gun out and shoot me in the head. I don't want to end up at Indian Hill like everybody else.
Coming back to
I
life.
thought that was in reference to like Martine, not Falcone.
No, that scene was because he says, "You tell me if you orchestrated his death, right?"
Yeah, because Zaz was the one that like hid Martine
Okay,
away.
we're talking about
like,
2 different scenes. Okay.
Oh, here's a fan theory. He was told to hide Martine away. What if, and not tell Penguin where it was, what if he put Martine with Zaz's grandma from like a few weeks ago? He's with Zaz's bubby.
Oh.
In fact, this is what you could do.
You're going too far, Josh.
No. Okay, because you know how
Reddit?
No, I'm not on Reddit. I promise. Although,
According to
we'll
this gas leak of a website.
Later. Yeah,
You guys need to back away from the Reddit, please.
But okay, so
Thanks so much.
people have like, this Zaz is a good Zaz, but we're like, he's nothing like the Zaz in the comics. So what if, because he was adopted by Zaz's bubby, this kid changes his last name to Zaz, and he'll grow up to be the Victor Zaz that Batman fights? Because remember, he uses knives and everything.
Martine uses knives?
Yeah, remember? Penguin was teaching him how to use a blade in that first
He was
episode.
teaching him how to stab properly. Like, you need to make sure you go up.
Yeah.
You need to thrust at an upward angle so that you can get to the heart.
Yeah.
I've been waiting for that child to stab somebody for, like, episodes. I was, like, excited. I was like, he's going to kill somebody. It's going to be awesome.
Tempting, but no.
Yeah, I was sad. I still love him, though. I don't care.
That does sound like a Reddit theory, though. What if Martine is Zaz? But whatever.
Well, you can't have a new character on like Gotham without Reddit being like, wait, who is they supposed to be? Like, is it this person?
Yeah,
Is it...
Martine is going to be Harley Quinn. That's it.
They thought Headhunter was supposed to be Deadshot, and it's like...
Well, see, good shows with good writers, that would actually make sense, but this show doesn't have that talent to allow all these like crazy characters to pop up there and then have a reason as to why they eventually show back up. I mean, honestly, if a character disappears on this show, they're either well, I mean, if they're not dead, chances are they're probably not going to come back unless they were an earlier version of a future Batman villain, like we saw Jonathan Crane earlier this season. But I mean, like, unless a character dies, a character actually has a more likelihood, is more likely to actually reappear on the show if they get killed than if they just stopped using the character.
It's true. It's so true. Oh my god. Just bring back Hugo Strange and just bring back the entire cast.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I mean, yeah, because
We'll just have like Harvey Dent and Montoya and Alan come back as zombies. It's fine.
Supposedly, we're going to get an explanation about Alan and Montoya, according to the interview
Still
with.
Yeah, we're still waiting.
Well, it's we still have half a season left to go. Like to just
They went undercover for the last 3.5 years, and here they are now.
I've made this joke like 4 or 5 times. I've made this joke 4 or 5 times in the show, but like I'll make it again. Like I really want Montoya to like come back and like be like, "So Jim, how's Barbara?" And like him just to like sweat beads like
He just walks away. He's like, "You can leave my office now."
How are her parents? They haven't been sending me Christmas cards lately. Like.
Well, we need more lesbians on the show, and we can't do Kate Kane yet, or can we?
Don't.
She'll become Batman, and then when Bruce is old enough,
she's Batwoman. Bruce.
Yeah. See, the problem is you guys are actually literally giving the writers ideas right now.
We are, because they listen to our podcast and copy what's on the show.
It would be. I don't care. Like if that happened, I would just be like, I'd need stronger alcohol.
Yeah. Did you listen to like there was a podcast opening like a few months ago where like it turned out that like Stella like predicted like 4 or 5 like plot lines that would like wind up happening.
Yes. Oh my god.
Yeah, I don't know if you heard that one, Dustin.
I did.
There's
Yeah.
also an episode where they said homeless 1,000 times.
Yeah, I like nearly fainted. I was like, okay, and then even then she was like, oh, and Barbara Keene will be brought back by the Lazarus Pit after dying, and when she comes back, she'll be evil. And I was like, son of a parent, like
Son of a parent.
that's my PG, curse word. So.
Oh god, Stella's a queen. And then like also there was that April Fool's episode you guys did the first year too, and
Still
as I was
haunts me.
watching through the second and third season, I was just in here like, oh my god, you guys. There's like one of the upsides to actually not only binging the TV show but also your podcast was just watching everything unfold.
And us being horrified about the monsters that we created. Is there anything more from the Jim and Sophia and Penguin plotline?
Well, I feel that there is, because like what do we think about? I mean, this is another instance of Gordon lying to save his skin. That
Yeah.
I understand this is a moral dilemma, and that actually makes it a juicy plot point.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
He's done this before, and to me, it's he's been doing so well this season. I'm not really mad at him for this, but like, I'm wondering where it goes, because Gordon is supposed to be captain in the G-Split. That's in the comics. In fact, he was actually wearing part of his costume earlier. Like the scene where Falcone dies, he wears the beige trench coat. He was missing the hat and like the cigarette and the glasses and the mustache. But like I'm wondering, like by the end of the season, is he going to like I want to start up like he did like in season 2, or is he going to tell the truth? Or is he? I guarantee you, he's going to shoot Sofia dead by the end of the season.
Either him or somebody else. It'll be, and I can honestly, this is my prediction right now. It's actually gonna be Harvey Bullock who shoots her, and
That's what I was gonna say.
Yeah, and he's gonna kill him because he sees the good that's happening with the police department, and he doesn't want it to be ruined by what happened with Sofia. So he kills Sofia and takes the blame, but he doesn't tell Gordon that he's the one who actually killed her.
No, it's gonna be Martine.
Yeah, Martine
will
comes
come back and stabs her.
or Lee will do it maybe, because they're it doesn't look like that's a family reunion
And I'll
that
go to that
is
set
going
and
to
stab them.
Yeah. Or
I don't know.
yeah.
I mean, it could like Penguin could offer when he gets out, because he is getting out with Jerome, I believe. I feel like that's going to happen.
No, he's in Arkham forever. Penguin's never getting out of there. This is Robin Lord Taylor's last episode of the series. He had a good run.
Oh, okay.
And we'll never see him. Not Cameron Monaghan either. We'll never see them again.
They're
Yeah.
just gonna beat each other up in Arkham for the next 11 episodes.
Well, they've
He
never
wasn't
really interacted, so I'm actually looking forward to seeing them kind of their interplay.
He wasn't happy about Jerome in season 2. He was like watching the TV, like scoffing, like, "What an amateur! He doesn't know what he's doing. Me, I'll be in charge forever."
That crazy Ginger is ruining things in Gotham. He actually said that.
Did he really say Ginger?
Yeah.
I remember that. Yeah.
Yeah,
Oh.
he did.
Oh, yikes.
Also, but he did name drop him at some point as like one of the big names in the city, but that was after he took it over that one night. In season 3.
The carnival, yeah. When Jerome had that cult, the cult of Jerome.
God damn, that was annoying.
The reality of it is they just need to embrace the fact that it's the Joker. Like, the show is gone off the rails with so many of the other characters. They just need to go the route and say this is the Joker instead of continuously. When
he dropped the card in the promo.
Well, yeah, but like I said, they could have just cut it that way. But the problem is that they keep saying in interviews, he's not Joker. This isn't the Joker. This is just somebody who they think could be we want the viewer to think that this could be the Joker.
What's the point?
It's not actually the Joker. I mean, like, honestly, yeah, at this point, like, why keep this charade up? Like, just go full on, this is the Joker. I'm sorry. And the thing is, like, the card, yes, I would believe that too, but wasn't it, there was some other season where Joker was written on the back, like in graffiti or something on the wall, and someone said, oh yeah, they're hinting at the Joker and Jerome, and then it turns out he never even went by that name ever. So it's one of those things where it's like, just fully embrace it. You know, you've already gone off the deep end. Just freaking go all in and say, you know what? Screw it. This is the Joker. You don't like it? You aren't watching anyway, so it don't matter.
They've already killed off Ra's al Ghul. I don't think they can do anything else besides Nightfall. And then
isn't he coming back? Like, he was in the promo.
Was he?
Someone brought up to me.
Yeah, he was in the promo.
That might be a dream sequence.
I think it's a dream sequence too, because I think when she's about to kiss, or Poison Ivy that is about to kiss him, she says something like, "I'm going to open up your mind" or something like that, and then there's all these weird flashes of a cave. I'm guessing that's where they were going with that. I'm also guessing him holding the mask is part of that dream sequence too, because I don't know why in the current situation that he's in, or at least the next 5 or 6 episodes that they might have filmed, he would have been in a position where he would actually be going back out as the vigilante.
The Black Shadow.
I don't see that happening. So I'm guessing it's all a dream sequence, and that's how he's going to pop back up. But I don't think he's coming back, at least in alive.
I think he's definitely coming back by the end of the season, because Rachel goes. I mean, he's too big of a name to just pretend that we'll never see him again. But they're playing coy. Oh, you think he's done?
I re-listened to that interview with Ben and me and Sadiq from Comic-Con, and he made a comment in there that I vaguely remember that I went back to listen to, where he said that in the middle of the season we'll have a break from Raws, but then he'll be back. That's not the exact words, that's kind of paraphrasing, but he said something along those lines that he thinks that Raws is a full season villain, but that we might have a break and you'll get some other villains and you won't like any of them because they're not me.
Like a boss.
Go
Quite
back.
honestly, I could see him saying that. I mean, I watched your guys' interview with him, and I watched some other interviews that he has given, and it seems exactly like something that he would say.
He's a nice guy. I liked him. And again, he's still a regular cast member. Not that means anything, because so were Harvey Dent and Alan and Montoya, and Harvey Dent's on a completely different show now.
Weird. And I also despise the fact that they make such a big deal when they cast these characters in these iconic roles, but then they have nothing for them.
Yeah.
At all.
Yeah.
Yep.
I love how you all responded the exact same way, because you feel exactly the same way.
The Batman speaks the truth
every week, and then we discuss the show every week.
That's right.
Well,
There's no other way to respond.
He comes armed with truth bombs every time Dustin comes on. I can't argue with that.
It's true.
Anything else about the Penguin and Gordon stuff and Sofia stuff before we move on to the other people?
Can we talk about her neck brace? Because that was some high fashion neck brace. Man, if I ever get in a car accident, I want that neck brace.
That's
blinged out amazing. I was just
what's funny about that? The fact that it was probably some sort of high-end neck brace, but when she took it off, it sounded like the crappy Velcro neck brace that you would take off too.
It's like when Michael Keaton rips off his mask at the end of Batman Returns.
We're the same split.
Yes, we're the same homeless cop, and then she takes off the brace and you can talk. What do you mean I can
What do you mean she could talk? She's not Martine. Oh God, Martine was so.
I know. It's basically the joke that like Gordon, the joke that we have on the show that like Gordon's an idiot with like temporary amnesia about things.
It would explain so much.
I did notice at neck brace though that it was like all silver and stuff.
It was beautiful. Oh God, she's so beautiful.
Nothing but the best for the Falcons. Like
Yeah.
Mario was buried in a solid gold coffin with like the finest cufflinks.
He better have been. He was murdered.
He was murdered on his honeymoon. He didn't even get to enjoy the night.
By his wife's
Because
ex.
he was going to kill Lee, but
The funny thing about that neck brace is she got shot in the side. Why did she need a neck brace?
I thought about that. That didn't make any sense.
She like the wheelchair. You could chalk it up to her abdomen or whatever is sore, so she just out of convenience factor she was in the wheelchair. I could get past that, but the neck brace, it made no sense. She didn't fall on her neck or do something like you get a neck brace when something happens to your neck. Like you see people wearing a neck brace because they get in a car accident, they get whiplash. She can get whiplash from getting shot in the gut. So
I even thought that like Falcone's gunshot wound, it didn't look fatal, but like I guess it could have reversed the shot because he was shot on his like right side, not where his heart was, but maybe they reversed it to where like the dude who plays him actually was meant to be shot in the heart, but like they reversed the shot.
She was so obviously behind that with wait, let me pick the flowers that mother loved right over here.
When that van was pulling up, I felt like that scene went on so long. Like Gordon is standing there. And it's just the van's pulling up. Everyone's looking at the van. Let's look at Falcone. Oh,
my Uber's here.
Oh, I'm licking my finger. Oh, now Gordon's standing here. Now, oh no.
That was more telegraphed than Tupac's death and All Eyes on Me.
Oh, man, that scene just lasted forever. I'm thinking like the way this van is pulling up, everyone could have just walked away at a
Let's go inside.
Out there.
It's the thing, though. I was watching it, and I was like, "Oh, hey, look! It is like a gangster film. Look at that hit."
Right.
Of the second son being upset that his dad doesn't take him seriously.
Yeah.
Well, also, and not only that.
Well,
go ahead.
And also, and I kind of go back and forth on this, but like, because it is a big thing in the Kanazara characters that Falcone has died, even though he was retired. But it was such as like over. You almost thought that like they killed off Alfred. It was like Falcone is dead. He wasn't doing anything for the last like several years.
He was being a weak old man in Gotham.
So same old.
By the way, like speaking of Falcone not doing anything, whoever like was doing the news reports that Alfred was watching, like
Gotham's still reeling from the death of Carmine Falcone.
Well, like they were like, there's no word yet on who will take Falcone's like place heading the crime families, and I was like, this person's still watching, like that news anchor still watching their season 1 DVDs, like, like
wouldn't the police like say no one's going to be the head of the crime family because like he's a criminal?
Well, like Falcone's lived in fake Miami for the last like.
Why would reporters even think they could get information on that? Like, there's no word yet who's going to be the next big boss.
Falcone's like, you're all fake news.
Henchman, who is the current crime lord?
That made no sense.
That actually would have worked out perfectly if Penguin was watching the television screen and then he got super mad because of the comment that she made.
Yes.
Zaz, tell them I'm a crime lord. Boss, don't you want to, like, not tell them that? Isn't that a bad idea to tell the news? Don't make me do to you what I did to Headhunter! Like, is he like that? By the way, another thing, too. Sophia not only shot her dad, but she freaking stabbed him in the heart by, like, making the very last thing that he saw, the very last thing that Falcone saw before he died, was her making out with homeless cop, like, 5 feet away. Like, because when they're, like, when they're like, get in the car, she gives homeless cop one last, like, kiss, and it's like, your dad is right there, you freak. Like
Mario is rolling in his grave.
Not only that, just it happened right after he said the thing about how could you have slept with the person that killed your brother?
Yes, exactly.
Like this.
And I'll do it again too.
Falcone, can you give us about 20 minutes?
For the homeless sex.
I suppose so. Let me find the chickens. Like, by the way, too, I did love how, like, once again, like, every single time that, like, Jim has seen Falcone since, like, Mario died, he always, like, expects Falcone to be happy to see him, and Falcone, like, never is. He's like, hey, Falcone, I'm just here to get Sofia. You and I won't be seeing each other again. Like,
hey,
you know, get out.
Carmine, I wasn't expecting you, my old friend. Get away from me.
Oh, come on. You're not still mad about that Mario thing, are you? You got another kid. You know,
I'll be dead before I forgive you, Gordon. Bang, 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 bang.
I also loved like Falcone, like, you know, giving that foreboding message to Gordon because he's figured out the Professor Pig thing. He's like, you know what? I'm happy that, like, you know, like when you realize like what it is that you've done, what you brought to the city, it will destroy you. That's, you know, he's like, I'm really enjoying that. And I was like, and the first time I saw it, I was like,
that he had figured out what was going on with Professor Pig. I don't know what I thought that meant.
I think that's what it meant because like that came back at the end of the episode with what Sofia said. He says, when you realize what it is that you brought to the city, you won't be able to live with yourself, and I'm going to really enjoy that. You know, like, I take great comfort in that. So that must have been Professor Pig. Falcone has resources. I'm sure he knows, you know, who Sofia contacted, because he even says that he was keeping track of her. He says, at first I was going to make you come back, but then I figured, let me see how this goes. Matlock's not on for another few hours. And then he
God, your ageist jokes.
As opposed to the other jokes.
I just call you out on all your jokes. They're still funny. They're wrong, but they're funny.
Do we want to talk about you know, the sirens, or I mean, specifically?
They didn't
Tabitha,
do anything in this episode. Screw them.
Yeah, they were tied to a chair.
It was really Tabitha and Grundy more than like Barbara and Selena.
Yeah, Selena was wasted. I did say last week that like I had wished that Barbara would have realized that like her and Sofia had been with the same man, because that is a weird thing that they have in common. But then, because they gave us that moment this week, I forgive them for not doing it last week, because that's like my favorite line of the episode almost, where like Barbara's like, "Wait, what?"
Yes.
And
then it was never addressed again. That was the only thing that kind of was like, okay.
Well, what was there to address too? It's kind of like we complained about Lee not being at the funeral. I think that having Lee be at the funeral would have taken too much screen time, because you can't have her at the funeral without like doing something with it, and you don't want to waste her reuniting with Gordon this season and like the rest of the main cast.
That is a good point. Yeah, she's
so
that's true.
It would be too much screen time. So, and obviously, like, she's trying to turn her back from that life, and she probably doesn't want to deal with all this stuff. And it doesn't look like she gets along with her sister-in-law.
Turns her back from that life, and she's leading an entire like you know, like the Sewer King's children in the Narrows. Like, you know, she's trying to turn a new leaf with her Morticia Addams cosplay and her flask of booze and her Grundy and Riddler. You know, she's trying to, you know, be a new Lee Tompkins and not the same one from last season.
Mm-hmm.
You know, the one that unleashed a virus that made everybody kill everyone else. So, and also stabbed her one true love with it. Well, talked him into taking it, rather.
He turned into a Hulk. He broke out of a buried coffin.
Homeless cough.
That's my secret, Leslie. I'm always homeless.
And it should not be so funny.
Thank you.
But it is.
But okay, so as I mentioned before, like, you know, why is Tabitha? I get that they're trying to go for the Batman the animated series thing with, like, you know, oh, they're using gramophones, but okay, we already know that MP3 players exist in this universe. Gordon and Sofia were using a flip phone at the end of the episode. Like, you know, you can at least give Tabitha like a CD player or something.
In fairness, like at the Barnes Noble that'll work out, we have more vinyl than we have CDs. People are using vinyl a lot these days.
But you use a record player, not like the old school like gramophones with the cones from like An American Tail and Downton Abbey. Like, you know, come on.
It's retro. Retro's in these days.
Oh, yeah, there's like an episode of Downton Abbey where like they get one of those, and it's like the plot point of the episode, like, we'll listen to the Queen's, you know, address of the nation on this thing. Let's throw a dinner party. It'll be splendid. Carson, you know, break out the fine silver. Very good, your lordship.
It's a very good impression of Dame Maggie Smith.
That wasn't supposed to be Maggie Smith. That was supposed to be...
Wow.
I don't know who the other actors on this show.
Oh,
You really should watch Downton Abbey, though. It's pretty good.
That's probably for the. He did one episode.
I nearly died because I was really sick that night.
I remember that episode, but I mean, like, he should watch the show. I liked the first 2 seasons.
I did think when, like, she's like, "Come on, Butch, remember me," and kiss him. I was like, I was like thinking in my head, hitting him on the head is what worked before. Just do that again.
Yeah.
Why is it hitting him on? And then when she walks away, like all sad, I was like, "Oh, come on, try hitting him on the head." Then like she pulls off that tarp and there's like a bunch of bats. I was like, "Oh, never mind. She has the same plan that I do."
Let's get Jason Todd with it.
While she was walking away, dude.
Uh-huh. I'm not that
away all sad. She was taking off her coat, dude. She was getting ready. Then she pulled the tarp off.
Yeah, I'm not that bothered by Grundy not trying to break out or fight back because, like, that's kind of been his character the last few episodes. Like, I remember in his first, like, Grundy episode, he wasn't fighting back till Nigma told him to. And I think when he's in, like, the ring with people, like, he won't fight back. He'll just, like, stare and then he'll, like, be like, "Oh, yeah, I guess I should fight back." So, that didn't bother me so much.
There's also, sorry.
Oh, no, go ahead. I was actually about to say, I think that Jan has more to say about that plot than I do.
I do. There's also the whole thing where she tried to explain to him that she's like, "I'm trying to help you." So she wasn't showing that she was trying to be mean. She was trying to be like a good person for him. And he's pretty simple. And then she could probably tell that she was getting like upset that she couldn't help him the way that she wanted to. So that's probably also another reason that he sat there, because she didn't want to like. She said, like, "I'm trying to do these other things, but this is the way it worked the last time." Yeah, so that really didn't bother me. And also, she just kept hitting him. I'm like, oh, God. This has got to, like, she's she was hurting while she was hitting him, too. She didn't want to do it. She thought that, like, it was the only way that she could fix him.
I think Jessica Lucas is having a lot of fun doing that, though.
This show has a very twisted view of love.
Look, it's the only kind of love I want.
To save you, why must I beat your skull in?
One of the reasons I like that couple is because they are not traditional. They're not like Gordon and every woman he's ever slept with. They're not like...
Because Gordon's couplings are traditional.
Well, chauvinist and the lady who doesn't want the chauvinist.
Well, there is definitely a Beauty and the Beast element to Tabitha and Butch Grundy.
Yeah.
And
she's Beast and he's Beauty.
If they call you Beast, I'll rip your lungs out. Oh, I mean, like,
I was thinking about that.
like, I think it's an interesting thing to have that kind of. I mean, Butch is just not going away, and we like Butch, and I like Tabitha. Mainly for the wrong reasons, but I still like her.
She's actually grown into a really nice character too.
Yeah, she was mostly like, this scary, like, enforcer when she first appeared. And like, it's kind of weird how this show makes some of the criminals like people who we root for. Like, obviously we want Penguin to be defeated, but like, they've kind of been making like Jessica Lucas and like, and like Selena, these like, well, Selena has always been sympathetic, but like, like we're kind of like almost supposed to like root for the sirens, Yeah,
everyone except Barbara.
Well, I don't know.
But I think they're trying to actually try. I'm thinking I honestly believe that they're trying to figure out a way to bring her back to not such a irredeemable character. Just for the fact that like if they want to eventually go down the route of her getting back with Gordon, they've got to figure out some way of getting her at least back. So I mean, making her no longer insane at least is at least a step towards that. If they chose to go that route, I don't see it actually coming to happen unless the show actually does go for 10 seasons like some of the producers magically believe it will.
Well, I don't know if she's actually playing Barbara Keene differently than she did at the beginning of the season, because it was a different performance at first, but now she's still like popping jokes and stuff. Like it's like her character, they forgot her character was supposed to be different. And it always smacks of desperate writing, how they're making her stay in the show. Either she's
still very calm though.
Perhaps. I mean,
and she's not as like power hungry as she was before. Where she was like, yes, me, Barbara Queen. I will rule the world
for like no reason.
I mean, this is crass, but honestly, she's going to give birth to Barbara Gordon, or she isn't. Like that really is the end goal for her character, because Barbara Keene is not a character in the comics. I mean, she is, but she really isn't. So like, I don't really care what she's going to do.
I showed her those old issues.
Yeah, I know.
Which
And she enjoyed them.
Which is
She loved them.
Which, by the way, like I checked, that's one of the most like watched videos on like the Batman Universe's YouTube channel.
Okay, let's not go overboard here, okay? It is well watched, but it is not one of the most watched videos. We have some videos on there that have over 500,000 views.
You forgot that Dustin was in the call.
I mean of like the last dozen. Like I checked like the hits for the last dozen, and like
okay, yes. I'd honestly say probably since August, for sure.
Wow.
It is definitely the most watched video. Probably even further back than that.
Because I checked out of curiosity. I was like, oh, cool. People like Aaron Richards.
He's gonna fight you.
No, it's Dustin. This is how we do it.
Violent.
Throw down.
Yeah. Well, I mean, and I've always said too that the way to bring Barbara on the show is like, first of all, like when you kill off Falcone and Maroni and all these other people, canon's different anyway. So you don't have to have Barbara Gordon, or you don't have to have Barbara Keene and Gordon get married. But if you're gonna do Barbara Gordon, I think that the most dramatic way to do it would be the post-crisis origin, where she's his niece, and Bullock's like, oh, you never told me that you had a brother. We had a falling out years ago, and then it turns out that they had the falling out because of they were both in love with the same woman, just like in the comics, and Gordon spent the night with her, and like Bullock has a moment with him at the end of the episode. He's like, that's your kid, isn't it? Yes, and you must never tell anyone. And then like the next time you see like Barbara, like it's because her parents were killed in a car crash. So then she goes to live with Jim, and she thinks that's her uncle. And then over the course of the show, she finds out the truth, and he, considers, should I tell her that I'm her biological dad or not? I think that would be the way to do it. And then just her having the same name as Barbara Keene is a coincidence, just like it was in Post-Crisis. Because I remember there's the issue where it's the secret origin.
Or they don't even go the route of just calling her Barbara, and they just go the Babs route.
Yeah, it is.
It's already called Barbara Babs.
Does anyone have any more thoughts on the Grundy thing before we get too far, like off?
Well, I was just one last thing about the Barbara thing. This Titan show is happening, and I remember very early on. I don't know if this is the same deal, because when it was going to be on like TNT and stuff like that, but they said explicitly that it's going to be like Dick Grayson, Oracle, and Starfire as a love triangle. So I was wondering if Barbara Gordon's going to be on that show, if they're ever going to give her like a backstory in terms of a mother figure. And I'm wondering would that reverse engineer this way this show is doing, because to me, and you know what, Erin Richards is a lot of fun, and I've really enjoyed her performance and her having fun on the show. But I don't see a point to this character. She's not Barbara Gordon's mom. I'm sorry. I know that's bad, but like honestly, like the fact that like she's like Rachel Ghoul's stooge and all that kind of stuff, to me, it's like she's not really done anything in this show that like I remember. So.
Well, basically, your problem is that her character by name is supposed to be with Gordon, but ever since the first season, they've deviated from that, and now she's just become her own character, which for the actress and for the character, that's a good thing. But the whole point of the character was not meant to be this. What they should have done was had her be another character that was not Barbara Keene. They could have just had her be like Tabitha Gallivan, who is nobody from the comics. That's the thing that would have made the most sense. Yeah. Okay. Fine.
Well, she has Tigress's name, but she's not. She has
Tigress's name, but she's not actually that character. But I'm just saying, like, go the route of just having a character. The problem is that it just comes down to they didn't have a plan in the first season. After that first half of the season aired, they didn't have a plan as to where exactly they were going to go with some of these characters that were existing characters within the universe, such as Alan or Montoya or Barbara to a degree. I mean, they didn't have any clue where to go with the characters and how to actually tell stories about these characters whose moments in the comics, at least in the time frame that this is happening, is so limited. And that's one of the biggest problems with the show is, like, I'm not going to say that everything with Erin Richards has been horrible. It really hasn't, but you can't look at it from the perspective of that she's supposed to be with Gordon. Like, getting back to being with Gordon, it's almost impossible to try to get back to that route after the path that they have taken. And it's just
challenge accepted.
I mean, like, I'm fine with them if they actually try to do it, and I'd be willing to, like, go with it just for the sake of seeing it. But if it turns out to be Gordon has his sudden case of amnesia again, that is stupid, and it's a stupid thing that they keep using over and over again. So the thing is, like, it just comes across as like, they had this idea for all these characters, Harvey Dent, bringing him in the mix, but then they realized, wait, if we bring Harvey Dent, we have to have more cases that involved the district attorney and the lawyers and the judge, and oh crap, we don't have the budget for a whole nother set, so there's no way we're going to be able to do a ton of sets with the district attorney. It just comes down to, like, there's all these like weird things that seem to be hampering their storytelling, whether it be budget concerns because of sets that they can't have or they aren't willing to have, or whether it be the fact that they don't have any direction for these characters. Like, it's upsetting that they've introduced so many characters over the course of these last 3.5 years, and so many of these characters that you get super excited about. Oh, great, they're bringing in Lucius Fox, and Lucius Fox went from being a guy who randomly just reveals something to a computer repairman to now he's a stooge for. I mean, like,
medical examiner.
I don't care who he is now. It's just he?
Yeah, he was the medical examiner after Lee left.
And now he's a forensic specialist as well.
Ridiculous. Like, Chris Chalk is actually a really good actor. He was in Newsroom, and I really liked him in that. And I think everything that he does on the show is actually really good. But they give him nothing to work with. He's basically there just as a, hey, this is Lucius Fox, everybody. Haha, you know who that is. He was played by Morgan Freeman. Haha. And
that is the main reason for
ridiculous. It's so frustrating when they get when they make a big deal about casting Harvey Dent. They make a big deal about recasting Poison Ivy because she's older and she's a redhead, and now they're going to do it yet again for a third time or a second time, recasting her. It's just one of those things where it's like, there's a few villains that they've brought in, and I think they've done an okay job with. I think for the most part, like Mr. Freeze, they've done a decent job. Yeah, he's pretty much a lackey at this point, but they at least developed his character so you understood who he was. He appears every once in a while in the show, but like, you don't have to keep focusing on him. Like, there's so many of these characters where they just introduce him, they don't even give them an arc to actually develop, and then it turns into nothing. So it's just one of those things where it's like, I really wish they'd stop doing that and stop going the route of, now we have to have Tommy Elliott, now we're going to do Jonathan Crane, but then the character is going to exist for a short story arc, basically the equivalent to a story arc in a comic book with 3 episodes, and then after that, we're never going to see this character again, because we're either going to A, kill them off, B, kill them off and resurrect them at some later date, or C, don't have them ever appear ever again on the show. I'm just tired of the formula that they keep using these characters. I look forward to the idea, like, I walked into the show thinking it was going to be a cop drama that was going to be focusing on the police department. I didn't have any idea that they were going to bring in, villains. I figured at some point they might bring in some villains, but not to the extent that they actually have, and not to the point of, doing what they've done with some of these characters. The entire thing with Bruce Wayne, like, I know we're going to get to that, but the entire thing with Bruce Wayne from the very beginning has been like the slowest story at pace, just because they don't know what to do with him. Now they're actually doing stuff with him, but it for such a long time, it was like he was lucky if he even appeared in the episode. Like, just make him a supporting character who only appears in a couple episodes instead of just having him pop up in his pantry every couple episodes.
That is an interesting talking point.
Boys got to eat.
Jan, what do you think about the character inclusion in this show?
The character inclusion? I came in here thinking it was going to be like Gotham Central, like when they first announced it. And then I saw, then I was reading everything you posted on your wall about it. And I was like, oh, wow, this sounds like a train wreck. But I had a friend who was super into the show, and she was super into Riddler. So I had straight up feed Riddler all over my feed. So I was solid on that. And I didn't know anything else about it. And then I started watching the show. And it was sad.
Several regrets later.
You guys are all so down on this show. Like even after like a good episode, it was like, wow, that was a good episode. But this
We're
show
talking
still
about
breaks
like
my heart.
when I started, though.
Okay, fair enough.
I was angry for like about a season and a half, but about like halfway through the second season, I was just like, well, at least the story is kind of consistent, more consistent than the first season. And then I got into the third season, and around the back end of the third season, I had no idea what was happening because there was just so much. They like to, I don't know, like when they get to the finales, they usually stack. Like, this is the one thing I love about this season. When we got to this mid-season finale, everything came together, and I could see what everything was, how everything affected everything else. In the first 3 seasons, when you had your mid-season finale and the finale, for me, there was just so much crap going on. I couldn't tell who betrayed who or who died or what was happening because there were just so many people. Like, I could barely, like, keep up with it. Now that when I look back and we discuss it, it's easier to figure out what they were doing, ish. But yeah, there was just way too many people, and now like there's a lot of people, but they do kind of gel together better because it looks like the writers have found a way to like make everything work. And mostly, I'm just gonna say it was Sofia this season who brought it all together because, yes. Okay.
Because she's hot.
With her blingin' neck brace, okay? Not only did she, like, slay, but she, like, slayed.
I see what you did there.
Literally, she slayed her dad. So.
Slaya.
And also.
I will agree that she did bring a lot of the elements together, and I can see that she's going to continue to do that because she's going to, we saw in the promo that she's going to be involved with Lee, and, like, you can definitely see that she is kind of like the connection between all of these different characters, which is good because it actually makes a legitimate connection instead of just bringing somebody in like last season with the virus and having Lee or Gordon being involved with Lee and Mario to begin with, just for the sake of the virus. Like, that's a stupid plot point. At least this is an actual person where you're seeing it play out. It works out well, and I think that I definitely agree. I think they've done a good job of having that character be the linchpin for everything.
Yeah, she was just.
Well said.
I was just so happy with like how they wrote her. I mean, you guys were just like, whatever. I mean, she's not really doing anything. She did a shit ton. They just didn't mention it because it needed to come out at the end.
Which character, Sofia?
Yeah.
Okay.
She did so much, but they couldn't tell you earlier what she did until this moment. Like the whole Laszlo thing, the whole story about the death of her father, the whole, oh my God, she's just so, remember I turned on her so hard last episode when she tried to kill Martine?
Yeah, I remember you said that you were going to hate her forever.
Yeah.
Which Crystal Reed did an interview where she said that like she didn't think that Sofia would have really killed him. She said that like, she was like bluffing and that she looks legitimately surprised when Penguin fake blows Martine up.
Yeah, that's true.
Mm-hmm. So the Bruce Wayne and Alfred plotline, even though it was like, kind of predictable with what happened, I preferred the one from a few weeks ago where like they went camping because that one to me felt like more real, where you can see Alfred really trying to reach out to Bruce in a real way that all of us have done in our life when we have like a friend or a loved one who's going through something and they're pushing us away, and Bruce legitimately being in pain but like just making bad decisions and acting out. This to me felt like a little more like vilifying Bruce, whereas like the last time I felt Bruce was more sympathetic last time, where he's almost villainous here, like plotting against Alfred and like like I'm going to get you arrested for beating me up, which I feel like Bruce goaded him into the fight just so he can get that scar and then like
yeah, which I definitely agree that is exactly the way it seemed. But the one thing that I had a concern with is I know that Alfred can punch, but it seems a little far-fetched that he got that massive lump on his face from just one punch to the face.
I would say that's far-fetched.
Bruce walked into a
have you ever been punched in the face before?
Actually, yes, multiple times.
With or without gloves?
Ow.
Without gloves.
Oh, God.
Remember when Alfred punched Selena in the face in season 2?
Yeah, she deserved that.
She didn't end up with a lump in her face.
She deserved that. She hasn't been that. She's a
Continuity.
girl.
Take that. Well, I think Alfred was like being more like reflex and like acting out in anger because like, you know, Bruce headbutted him. So whereas with Selena, maybe he pulled that punch a little bit because he knew that this was like, you know, a young girl and like, I don't know.
Who shoved his best friend out of a window.
His best friend who stabbed him. Yeah. British. Yeah.
Yeah, he was only at half capacity when he punched her.
I see it in Rays. Yeah, I have nothing more to say about that plot line because I really was like, I like the overall outline of where they're going, but I was disappointed that like this felt like a rerun on the last episode or two.
I didn't feel like he was being turned into a villain or anything. Though.
Oh my gosh, his face at the end when he's at the club and he looks at the camera like, mwah,
yeah,
ha, ha.
It was like
he
Thanos.
had that whole "I hate
did
myself" face.
Oh,
Yeah,
I don't know if I agree with that. Really?
Yeah, like.
Oh, interesting.
I
Looked like he was like relishing in his evil. He didn't look like, you know, like I'm so messed up crawling in my skin or anything like that.
As
I think
someone
it's just
who's actually felt the emotion that I felt that he had on his face, yeah, he was like, he's like, I'm supposed to be enjoying myself, but I don't enjoy myself. Like, everything still sucks. I'm drinking. I'm supposed to be having the time of my life, and I am not. He to me, it looked like he had a suffering face.
Yeah, I would actually agree. When I saw it, I actually thought it was more of like I'm lost and I don't know what to do because I cannot change this. And what he did in Alfred, even though, like Josh said, you know, he does come across as not a villain, but in a villainous manner that he did what he did. Like he purposely planned this out so that he would be in a situation where he could get rid of Alfred and Alfred really wouldn't have a choice in the matter. Like that did come across as like a little bit too planful of it and very villain-like. But at the end, when they show his face and he's in the party, I got the same feeling that he just was, you know, he is like super pissed about his life in general. And it's not that he's, you know, it's not that he's not having any fun. It's not that he's a villain or that he's, you know, straight up bad. It's just that he's just not happy with his life.
What's this?
He can't fix it.
Dustin and Jen both against me? And I'll have to rewatch it. I may have. I do remember it.
I mean, it's just a matter of interpretation too. I mean, like you could look at it either way. I mean, I could see the perspective that you're saying too. It's just it comes across as like it comes across differently for, you know, different people depending on, you know, probably their own experiences in life. Yeah.
Well, I do remember now that you guys are mentioning it, like the scene slowing down and him kind of slowing down and not really doing anything as it ended. So I'm gonna have to rewatch it again. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because he did not look happy.
It looked evil to me, but your mileage may vary, and that was like when I had the theory, oh, maybe Roz is inside of him. I don't know. Like,
oh wow. Yeah, no.
How did
What's
he
wrong
get
with your
from
vocabulary
inside
tonight,
of
Josh?
Barbara into him?
I don't know. There's just so much weird stuff going on, and all we can do is guess.
I see.
But yeah, that was the only thing I wanted to say was that I didn't feel like he was being a villain at all. I just feel like he's still struggling, and the spiral is never pretty. You don't just like suddenly start becoming a good person for like 2 seconds and then go back to being bad. No, you continuously make bad decisions. He got his revenge. He's feeling empty and unsatisfied. He broke his rule, and he doesn't feel like he really even did anything. Because, you know, when you're like the hero in stories, you're supposed to like, you know, feel good. Like, I saved the day. I saved the universe. I saved the world. And he's just all like, I killed somebody.
I do like the fact that they're just continuing to deal with it, though, because that's like the only way that you can kind of do this story.
I felt he was more sympathetic, like the last time he was on, though. Where
Ish.
I said he was more sympathetic, like a few weeks ago. Where like now he's like, and it's funny because fandom is like angry at him. Something happened on The Walking Dead last night, which I won't say, and like Davi Mazouz like posted on Twitter like, "Oh, how could they have done that to blank?" And like fans would respond to him, "How could you have done that to blank? How could you have done that to Alfred? You ungrateful, trash."
I saw that.
And then Sean Pertwee, after the episode aired, he posted like, "Oh, look at these pictures of me and Master B, so happy." And Davi Mazouz says, "I fired you. I didn't give you permission to post pictures of me. Get out."
Yeah, he says, "I fired you, scum."
Yeah,
That's amazing.
I love how they are on social media. They legitimately seem to enjoy each other's company and enjoy doing this show. That's fun.
My thing about Bruce, this entire season has felt like a little disjointed. We started off the season with him donning that, vigilante mask and the proto Batman suit, as everyone was naming it online. The thing that I have is they went from that to him going straight to the Playboy route, which was set up to get involved with the stuff with Ra's al Ghul and that whole situation, then the fallout from Ra's al Ghul. But what was the whole point of the setup of the proto bat suit if this is where they ended up? It feels like they had a plan, but they needed to everything actually feels like a stepping stone for his character, except for that proto bat suit. And it just feels like they started out at the end of the last season with him on top of the stupid building, hinting at it, and then they just needed to wrap that up somehow by doing it, but they never actually wrapped it up. They just transitioned very poorly into the storyline with Ra's al Ghul and just having him, act like the playboy and then eventually become the full-fledged jerk playboy that he is now that he's suffering from or dealing with the fact that he killed Ra's al Ghul. But the thing that I guess I want to ask you guys is do you feel like the proto bat suit was just fan service? Because I don't feel like there was any purpose for it whatsoever at this point.
Well, I think that the writing is sound, where they were fast forwarding his track to Batman, and then hitting that kind of impasse. It's it's going to take a lot to kind of really become that. So I think that it's not inconsistent in that case. It is. I can see where they're trying to go. I think I stepped on Jen. What were you going to say?
I was just going to say that I think that because they did that whole temple shaman thing and he had all that amazing training, they did that pretty early on. I mean, he still has a way to go, but he now has all these fighting abilities that he didn't have before that whole Court of Owls temple training, acupuncture memory needle thing.
Nonsense.
Yeah, nonsense. And then, so they were pretty much, it looked like they were fast tracking him to becoming Batman. So when they gave him the suit, it was just okay, this is how they're going. And I was they're going to have to figure out a way to slow this down somehow, because otherwise he's just going to be Batman by the end of the season or the end of the next season. And the fact that he killed Raish puts a dead halt in it, which gives them a more extended time to bring him back up to becoming the man he needs to be. So that gives them an extra padding of time. So and then also it's what is the word? A tangible symbol of what he wants to become, the man he wanted to become, grow up and be, and the person that Gotham needs, rather, because we all know it's not James Gordon.
Not the hero he deserves.
Well, so, I do think at least Gordon's motivations are more in line with his season 1 ones this season.
Thank God.
But yeah, and those first few episodes where he was the black blue blur and stuff, it was the same story beat each time, where he would go out and do something, then he'd be about to die, then Alfred would save him. That happened 2 or 3 times.
But that was good though, because he's still young.
Yeah, I think that's fair. That's fair game,
but it was
because
the same thing.
No, but I think that in those instances, you got to learn to escape stuff by getting into traps. Even if it's the same thing, I think that's actually kind of necessary for his personal storyline.
Yeah, but if he keeps on doing the whole black blue blur thing, it will be kind of the last few seasons of Smallville, where okay, just call yourself Superman at this point,
no, because he still has to learn. I mean, Batman went through a lot of training before becoming Batman.
Years,
yeah.
If he's dressing up like a vigilante for a few years on the show and going out and arresting people, then at that point it's okay, who are you kidding at this point? So
it was a thing where like they kind of cheated because he's doing stuff canonically he shouldn't have an idea of what to do until after years of training. So like he's not really traveled the country at all, which to me is kind of
He's been to
sacrosanct.
Switzerland twice.
Very funny.
But the thing is that's a good point. I mean, like honestly, like if they wanted to go the route of him like getting to the point of becoming Batman, and even if they wanted to start this like much early in his life, depending on who you ask, now he's somewhere in the age of like 16, 18, depending on who you ask, because there's this whole theory of whether or not each year of the show is actually just 1 year, because the actor David has had a growth spurt himself, so he's grown a lot in just a few years compared to the little boy that we saw in season 1. So the thing is, the question is, how old is he really? And if he's at a certain point, like, why not have him, go all over the, start his travels and stuff, and like just have Alfred go along with him for a while, and then eventually he realizes that he needs to split up, down the line multiple seasons from now. Like, you could have him just be this side character. Like, the thing is, like, it feels like the stories are limited by the area that the stories have to take place in. That feels like that, like, so much.
Also the television
and so
budget.
Often. Yes, that's true. That's true. But let's think back to season 1 when they made a massive big deal about that giant GCPD headquarters that they made, when they didn't need to make that giant headquarters, and how they spent practically probably the entire production budget for sets on that one thing that, yes, they've obviously gotten a lot of use out of, but how long do we see Bruce Wayne never leave his den? Because
we've never seen Bruce Wayne's bedroom, I don't think.
No, we haven't.
Wayne Manor is just the library and like the kitchen, like pantry room.
And the only other thing we've seen is the swimming pool, that one episode.
Oh yeah, that's right. They do have a swimming pool.
Oh god, there was a swimming pool.
But that's it. I mean, there's also the greenhouse or whatever it is, because that's where they were fighting. But like, that doesn't happen very often. It always ends up being the kitchen or the den.
The kitchen.
The kitchen,
I do remember a staircase
for a
once,
giant manor that is as big as it is. That kitchen is awfully small to be serving potentially hundreds of guests who come.
In fairness, how many times did we see like the kitchen or Lex's bedroom in his mansion on small?
That's true. I'm not arguing about that. I'm just arguing. Well, that's true, but
I don't know. It could be like the servant's kitchen.
That's true.
Of which he has none.
Yeah. Like in Downton Abbey.
But for whatever reason, Bruce Wayne is always in that servant's kitchen.
Real talk, when Don and I spoke to the producers right before season 2 and we asked why Gordon doesn't have an apartment, they said that they spent all their money on the Arkham Asylum set, and that's why Gordon was homeless.
And I don't doubt that. I mean, the Arkham Asylum set, I don't understand where the money went, because like GCPD headquarters, I could honestly say it's a decent set. I mean, like, it's like there's lots of different areas that they can go in. There's Gordon's office. They've got that balcony that overlooks everything. Like, they've got it looks
like
nice
it's from
set.
the 40s, which is kind of cool.
It's beautiful.
Yeah, it's a nice set, but like, there's nothing else. And like, every time they seem to add something, like this year they added the whole Barbara's hideout, which, yes, that actually looked really cool. And the fact that like all the walls turned and all the guns came out, that was cool. But how long did that really last? Like, it was in like 2 or 3 episodes. How much money did they spend making that set, only to not use it now because they're not having anything to do with that she's now part of Falcone's crew, and she has nothing to do with it. It just comes across as like, I watch so many other TV shows that don't seem to have the same money concerns. There's another show on Fox called Lethal Weapon. They are never at the same sets, ever. And I don't understand why Gotham is so like limited on where they can go and what they can do, and why they continue to obsess over this like necessity of making it seem like it's taking place in like the 1940s, 1920s, but there are some technology elements that they still have.
The 1920s, Jesus Christ!
Like, I don't know. I mean, like, it's just one of those things where it's like, it's
pretty sure
so
it's the
ridiculous.
40s, because the 20s would have flappers.
You're right.
Still is Beaver.
Well, and every time Gordon like dreams about his dream family, it's always like this Leave It to Beaver thing where like Lee's dressed like she's like
it's not even that
making
late.
lunch
It's,
for
it's,
Leave
it's
It
like
to
My
Beaver.
Three Sons. Like Leave It to Beaver was in the 50s.
Yeah.
Yeah.
like
She's got the classic hair and like the really. She looks so pretty.
that's nice.
Geely, you think the commies are gonna get us?
I'm with Truman.
Wow.
Not if President Eisenhower has anything to say about it.
Like, if anything, they've backed themselves into a corner with the production aspect of the show, just because they've got this weird time frame that they're always stuck in. Like, all the cars look like they're from like the early '80s, late '70s.
Except the Ford Focus.
They had to have a necessity. But it honestly feels like, because they have worked themselves into this weird like time era that is non-existent in real life, they basically have I don't know. And the other thing that's really annoying is the lighting that is always happening whenever they're outside. It always looks weird, like they're purposely making it darker than it needs to be.
It's overcast. It's Twilight
Commented on
weather.
that right before he died. Falcon
Yeah,
was
he's like, it's never sunny here, or the sun never shines.
Isn't Gotham supposed to be like grimy all the time though?
Not really.
It's not like London in the 1940s where like there's soot in the air where nobody can see.
Well, it does depend, because like some people Gotham wasn't a crap hole until Frank Miller, which is like 30 years ago. Otherwise, it was like any other store. It just happened to have a really creepy name. But like, I mean, I think that Gotham does have the show Gotham has personality because of this nebulous, undefined timeline. But at the same time, it is a nebulous, undefined timeline, and we are asking questions like, okay, they don't use computers, but they have cell phones, but they don't use I don't know. Yeah, I'm not mad about it.
But the cell phone thing is drawn out because there's so many situations where they don't use a cell phone when they should. But you see them use cell phones for like the most unnecessary things in the world.
But they don't text though. To me, it's almost like a radio.
Yeah. What was I gonna say?
Homeless cop used a walkie-talkie when he and Bullock were talking when he was buried alive last season.
Yep.
Totally.
Yeah, he did.
I just go back to the fact that Liza was allowed to have an iPod, but 3 years later, Tabitha can't do anything better than like a gramophone.
Yeah, there was totally either a CD player or a tape deck in Fish's club in the first season when she was playing the opera.
Well, and some of the songs that they've sung at like the nightclubs are like songs from like the last like at least 10 years or so. And there was the newspaper and one of the seasons that like did have the current year. But I do know that like when Martine was taking that test a few weeks ago, like the date for the test said like Tuesday. Like, not the month or the year. Like,
you said he turned the page and it was Wednesday all of a sudden?
No, it was like you turn the page. I think it was like Friday, and then you turn the page and it was like Tuesday. It was like you actually went back in time. Maybe that's what's happening. That's why you go from like iPods to like gramophones. We're actually going backwards in time. Like, Barry Allen is like screwing things up and like.
Not again.
Oh, okay. Now I remember what I wanted to say.
Go ahead.
No, it's because I keep going back to I'm going back to Bruce, and I guess you can just edit this back in. But I'm going to go back and talk about Zero Year again. Because Bruce was a complete dick to Alfred in that storyline. So every time you guys are like talking about things, I'm like, I know it's New 52.
The worst
but
thing ever.
It's like, I actually really liked all the Batman stuff from that. So, but yeah, like, he was like so bad to Alfred during that time. So every time I see how Bruce is treating Alfred in this show, it doesn't really ring to me as weird. Because it is right after he got back, he's like, I don't need to be Bruce Wayne, I need to be Batman. I mean, it's like a different situation, but he treated him exactly the same. Like, he's like, you need to go out, you need to like live a normal life. He's like, screw you, I'm going to do this instead and get out of my way. Like, he basically uses some of the exact same words that they use in the show in that time. So to me, it doesn't vibe as something different or as something weird or something out of character.
Eventually. Go ahead. Well, I never necessarily thought it was, and I think to that point, when I remember the first half of Zero Year, Yeah, he was just like, because Bruce is explicitly a younger man before he becomes Batman, and I'm thinking about that. I'm thinking about Batman Begins, where they get kind of a little bit of an argument. Like, I think it makes sense for the character when he's trying to figure himself out to rebel against, the only authority figure that who could possibly exist, Alfred Pennyworth. Because I remember like in the first issue of Zero, doesn't he flip off like the Red Hood gang or whatever? Like, Batman never does something like that. But that's him in his 20s, so it's a fair game.
He's really young. He's feeling himself.
I don't mind him
found
having
his calling or whatever.
I don't mind him having a teenage rebellion, just as long as like I said, like a few weeks ago, where like I was able to kind of like feel for him, and like I felt that this was written more of like sympathetic to Alfred and not to Bruce.
Well, sometimes Bruce is a dick.
Fair enough. We were just talking about that in on Stella's show, because we recorded which will actually be out tomorrow, probably the anniversary show where like Batman was being a jerk to what's his name, Connor Hawke.
Yeah, Green Arrow.
So
here's the thing. Like, I always tell everyone, Batman's like my favorite. I love Batman so much. Batman. They're like, I hate Batman. He's like the worst. And I'm like, why? It's like, because he's a dick. And I'm like, that's why I love him. I mean, he's not supposed to be. He's not Superman. You're not supposed to like him.
I think you're supposed to like him. But like the way he comes off to certain people, like he treats Superman differently than he treats Gordon, differently the way he treats Alfred, differently the way he treats Dick. But like he does have that thing about control, which tends to put people off, and it varies from writer to writer, whether he's being a dick or whether he's being insane or whether he's being like just kind of annoying. Like, and it's been flannerized for sometimes, but it is the consistent thing about Batman is his need for control, and like he can tend to like just not have the right social cues when it comes to like people close to him.
Mm-hmm.
Oh God, yeah.
I was going to ask if there was any thoughts about the promo, but I feel like we've like discussed most of the promo like throughout the episode.
Did we hit every note? Did we hit every?
Well, one note that I guess I want to hit with it is I am glad that like we are going to finally see Lee, who's been in her own universe, like almost like come together with the rest of the plot, because she is going to meet Sofia, her sister-in-law.
Yes.
So I was looking forward to that, and it doesn't. And when I interviewed them at New York Comic Con, and I was like, what are you going to do when you find out that your sister-in-law is with your ex-fiance? Like, Rita McCarran like did like a mock like what to me, and then I was like, she's like, nobody told me this, and then Drew Powell like laughed and said, oh yeah, I guess she is your sister-in-law. I never thought about that. To which Rita McCarran said, yeah, for like 5 minutes, because homeboy killed my husband. With her
homeless homeboy.
She actually said the words "homeboy," which was funny.
I was posting because Jan's friend what's her name? Kate Christie.
Karen.
She was posting. We're talking on Facebook about Justice League, and I'd forgotten, but I love Marina McCarran's. She voices Black Canary, or she voiced Black Canary. And I thought she was a perfect match for that character. I knew that for years, and I mentioned this on this podcast, but I've forgotten for a while.
All right, so we don't know how long the break's going to be. People have been speculating because there is a show, like some music talent show, that's going to be on for a while. So people are wondering if this is going to be like
is
March
it Final
or
Four
April.
with P. Diddy?
I don't remember what it was called, but people are like speculating based on like the schedule for this like music talent show that like Gotham might not be back till March or April, which they have. When X-Files came back, they did a long break like this too. It's great for podcast production because we're not editing a new show every single week, but like, as a fan, it does take the momentum out, but we're planning on doing some special episodes to, fill in the blanks here and there. There's already a few in the can. Yeah.
I mean, they especially said spring, so to me that says they're not coming back till at least April, which is like at least 3 months.
I don't know about April.
If I had to take a guess, I'd say mid-March is probably when we're going to see them come back.
Which last year they came back for like 2 or 3 episodes, like in between, and people were like really confused by that. They were like, and now tune in for the winter finale. It's like, wait, didn't we just have the fall finale?
Yeah,
like
exactly. So I don't think they're going to do that this time. I think honestly, we're gonna see it just like last year, how the season didn't end up like wrapping up until June. I think it's going to be the exact same thing. Like end of March, the third or fourth week of March, we'll see it come back. I'm sure it'll stay on the same night, and it'll just run through all 11 episodes. Probably the only, and I can't see anything coming up because it's on Thursdays, it's not affected by any holidays. So there should be no reason why it can't just run the final back half season in one fair swipe.
Yeah, they always do what I call rally till the finale, where like once they come back, they do like every single episode to the finale. Which again, as a podcaster, exhausting. As a fan, it's great.
Agreed.
Yeah.
Especially with my weird schedule.
So whenever we'll be back, we'll see. But until next time, this is Josh.
This is Don.
This is Jan.
And this might just be the last time for Dustin.
We got a season finale in a few months. And you've been listening to the Gotham Chronicle podcast.
Do the Mario, swing your arms from side to side. Come on, it's time to go. Do the Mario, take one step. And then again, let's do the Mario all together now. You got it. It's the Mario. Do the Mario, swing your arms from side to side. Come on, it's time to go. Do the Mario, take one step. And then again, let's do the Mario all together now. Come on now, just like that.
Yellow.
Hello?
Hey.
Hello.
All right.
Hey, Dustin, it's been a while.
It has.
I know we've been corresponding on email and Skype, but it's been a while since I've heard your lovely voice.
Most people don't consider it very lovely, but thank you.
It's very calming.
Yes, this is Jan, our new co-host on the Gotham Chronicle.
Hi.
Hi, how are you?
Good.
I'm sure they've told stories about how horrible I am.
We probably imitate your voice at least once an episode.
Pretty much, yeah.
But it's not even like the imitation of your voice. It's like the imitation of Zach Batante's imitation of your voice.
Yeah.
Because like
pretty dramatic.
You remember like 6 or 7 years ago we did that like fake podcast where I was Apple and Don was Nick and Zach was you. Like whenever I imitate Apple or like you, I'm imitating like that version. It's like SNL.
It was pretty good imitation though.
It was caricatures. We subject to them. How you been?
Busy.
Oh, in about 90 minutes, I'll have to switch from the laptop to the phone, and if we're still recording them, which we probably will be, and like just wait outside of my night job, but I'm still able to record then because I just have to supervise this place while everyone is sleeping. So, but that's that. Any questions about? I mean, you've done this before, Dustin, but any questions about how this goes down nowadays?
No, I mean, it's pretty straightforward.
Yeah.
It's your show. You lead it. I just talk. So.
You have done this before. I am recording, so whenever you guys are ready.
Okay. All right. This was Queen Takes Nights, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yes, it was. And Bruce and sorry, hold on a second. What?
Alfred?
Okay. Yeah.
I like when you say, what?
He's just yelling at me through the door.
Did you ever watch The Office, Dustin?
I have seen The Office. I have never watched it all the way through, but I have seen like a good chunk of the episodes. Used to watch it. Was like, when they started syndicating it, I used to watch it sometimes before the evening news, which makes me sound so old when I say that out loud.
Do you remember? This is a tangent, so I'll probably put this in bloopers or edit it out. But do you remember the episode where they go to the dinner party at Michael Scott's house, and that was when he was living with this girl named Jan, no relation to our Jan, and like. She played.
I'm sure it's exactly the relation to it's the exact Jan that's right here.
Oh hi.
Hi, Mark.
Here's your time with Michael Scott.
Yeah, but do you remember that episode with the awkward dinner party?
I did not. I have not seen that episode.
Oh, okay, they play this horrible song from like Jan's teenage secretary that she had an affair with. The basic and that song became a meme. The guy who sings that song is Harvey Dent from Gotham.
Well, he was also in Masters of Sex, the first 2 seasons of that show before that, and then he was in some show with John Lithgow on NBC while he was still actually being credited as part of the full cast over on Gotham.
I saw that show. It's horrible.
Yeah. It didn't last. I don't think. I'm pretty sure
it got renewed for a second season, and I was like, yeah. And I was like, but how?
I thought it was a limited series. I thought that's what it was, and that's how I thought he was able to skate by with doing that show, because there's plenty of actors and actresses nowadays who are on multiple shows. There's somebody who's one of the characters on Last Man on Earth. One of the girls is also on a show called White Famous on Showtime. There's a lot of people who are on multiple shows on multiple channels.
What the?
I'm not actually serious there. I was just. It's just funny if you just say that.
You want me to end the call and start again?